Hello, I'm late. I take my lunch after doing those stream when I do those stream, but now I was quite hungry, so I wolfed down my chili con carne before going live. I was just like swallowing my last bite there. Good afternoon, Flady. I hope you're doing well. Today I wanted to talk about writing game for intelligent people or for people that know about RPG. And this this topic came to my mind because I was reading Pax Luporum by Total Party Skill or King Waspinator. I've talked about him before. I like his channel. I like the content he puts out. I think he's even though I often disagree with him, I think he's one of the guys that bring a perspective to kind of like the RPG YouTube. He's not only like doing the same topics that we've been I've been talked over and over again. Like, oh, should we do point buy or should we do dice roll or should with our alignments like that? It's all right to talk about those sometime, but like there's some people that solely talk about like, oh, how should you use this monster in the just like we get it. I like people that bring something different to the table, and King Waspinator or Total Party Skill does that. So the games he published though are not for me, like those thing about kind of emulating B movie kind of thing, like those 50s B movies. I'm not into that. But when he put out Pax Luporum, where you basically play a werewolf in 3rd century BC Rome, that I find interesting. So that's a concept I can get behind. That's kind of cool. So I got the book and I read it. And my first impression of the book was, man, this how light can a rule light game be? Like I felt like there was a huge gap in the book, and that was like barely a system. And I would think like, yeah, could I run that game? Yes, I could, but I've run many RPG before, and if a game got gap, I can fill them up myself. I'm just like I'm used to it. It's not my first barbecue, like we say. But that was a shame because I said like this game is barely designed. It's just like a note, a few ideas jotted on paper. It's quite a thin book, and most of it is setting. But I thought it was a missed opportunity because the subject is the setting is cool. The idea is cool, where you play a werewolf that are like it's like the old Romulus and Remus myth is true, kind of like they're not just a human raised by wolf. They're actually werewolf that founded Rome. That was cool. But when I was taking some note to prepare, like talk about it, because I don't just come here like unprepared. I do take some notes. I relooked at the book, and I said, you know what? It's not that bad actually. The rules are there. It is a fully functional system. I just miss it on my first reading because of the way it's written. It's first the formatting. It's all like text. It's like there's no image. There's barely an example. Like there's some table there, but it's a lot of long block of text with very little formatting, very little title and subtitle and stuff like that. So the information is quite dense, and not only like it's presented in block of text, and you're gonna have like two or three rules mixed together in the same block of text. So sometimes I read sometime before going to bed, before sleeping, as a way to relax a bit before sleeping and being away from a screen. So I missed a lot of it. It's only in going back to it to prepare, then I was like skimming through the book and said, "Oh, you know what? Oh, okay. This question I thought was an answer, was actually answered. There's an answer right there." Maybe one day I'll do a how to play Pax Luporum because now I took some notes, so it's all there. if people are interested in that, you can let me know down below. If you want to know, maybe you heard about those total party skill game and you want to know what they're about, I'll be happy to oblige. So the game is functional. It's a fully, you can buy the book and play it. Nothing wrong with it if you're willing to put the work in to read it and to decrypt it. So that's my review. It is a functional game. Could have been written better. There's some question I still have. Maybe I'll keep that for the how to play, or maybe I should. Maybe one day I'll reach out to King Waspinator to ask him something that I think are not quite clear enough. But King Waspinator is something that he said that he write those books for an intelligent audience. He doesn't write those books for morons or people that have no idea what an RPG are, just like randomly come across those books. Hello, Crafting Gamer. Thank you for joining us. Same for Doodle Squatch. Nice seeing you. And that's what I want to talk about, like writing books for intelligent people. And because there's this thing about, I should have brought it around here. It's in my bedroom, the book I'm reading now. But those books that still do what is the RPG in the introduction. And the question is, should we still do that? Is it like, shouldn't we be past that? How to roll dice and how to read the result of dice. You read this whether or dice, like, 6-sided dice is a dice with 6 sides. And when you roll it, the face on top is your result. Like, do we still need to do that? But some games still do it, and maybe some games still need to do it, like the 800-pound gorilla in the room, like when D&D does it. Like some people are gonna take D&D as their first RPG, but when you're like a DT or publisher, only people that are quite into RPGs will get to your book. We'll go read you're not gonna be like people randomly like browsing Amazon and saying, this book look cool, what is it, and buy it and then say, like, just like, what I'm reading here. Like, you're not gonna feel like people like lost like that. King Waspinator did skip all the what is the RPG thing, and like it goes, well, it starts straight with the setting in general, a few page, and then straight in the rules, like page 10, just straight in the rules, and the rules are like 20 page. But and the same thing with the Lamentation of Flame Princess. They cut all that out. The book is quite thin. That's the whole rules and the setting and the magic. Sorry, no setting. It's the rules and magic. It's quite a thin book. They cut out all that crap, you could say. What is the RPG and stuff like that. And I think I think there's nothing wrong with including those sections. Well, the how to roll dice, get rid of that. Fuck's sake, like people know how to roll dice. Maybe if you use like polyhedral dice, you can go like, okay, that's a paragraph, like a few lines, or D4 is 4-sided dice. If we say 2D4, that's 2 4-sided dice. What? That's it. You say that and that you move on. If people like cannot figure it out past then, maybe they can go look on Google. What is the RPG section? I think this can be interesting if you bring something to that section, maybe, because I think they can be informative for how the author of the book sees the hobby, like what he thinks about it, how he conceive it. Does he come out with like a war game kind of a mindset? Does he come out with a more like, it's like pretend like we are a kid playing cowboy and Indian but with rules? Is he coming more with from an acting kind of a viewpoint? So I guess there could be value there if you don't try to make it like super generic. It can give you it can be informative for all the authors see the game. It's been a bit since I checked out his channel. I have to check him out to go back and check him out. Yeah, he had been like a bit of a hiatus in his channel. I think he was like on a road trip, and at some point also he did a lot of lore video for the World of Darkness. So if you're not into that, then yeah, sometimes you can skip those. It's been a while since I did like a video about opinions and perspective and stuff like that. A lot of like informative content, if you want. But that's the content I'm least interested in, unless I'm want to go in a World of Darkness game, then I would like specifically seek out that content. But that's not what I'm subscribing to his channel. But we all have stuff like that sometimes that we do. Like, it's hard to always come with fresh take. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, and King Waspinator does say that you write his book for smart people. But reading it, I think is like I said, yeah, you really need to know something about RPG already when you go into that. Don't go into that blind. Don't go into that if it's your first RPG, unless you have somebody to guide you. And it's a shame because like just with some editing, some layout and stuff like that, could have been much better. Now I'm wondering about his other games. Those goofy kind of game like Escape from Planet Matriarchy and stuff like that. But it would have taken much. So I just want to talk about that a bit and say, like, since this is a live stream, maybe I'm curious about what you guys know in chat there. Do you like those? Do you think they're still needed? Do you prefer like a thinner book that got all the crap? Also, one thing, like, yeah, that Joshua, like, in a Total Party Skill, doesn't put any example. And I feel like sometimes you read RPG book, and the example are almost like extremely patronizing. It's like if you make a check and you roll your dice, and if it's higher than difficulty level, you succeed. And then there's an example like, oh, Billy rolled a 20 and the difficulty level was 17, so he succeeded. Yeah, I got that. Sometimes you don't need to explain everything, but sometimes some example could help. Especially like sometimes it's just like just the fact that it's kind of like rewarding something, rewarding something in a different way. But yeah, I skipped the vampire and the werewolf stuff. I skipped the vampire stuff. The werewolf, I'm more into it, but like it's more like a nostalgia because I did play Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf back then when I was as a lad in the 90s. But I much prefer the werewolf stuff because that speaks to me more. Like being wild and being like an animal and kind of an eco-fascist. That's more my stuff. But the vampire, okay, that's all right. I had enough. I had my itch of World of Darkness was scratched by the werewolf stuff. Are you holding with the wildfire? We got hit too hard with the smoke from their ear. There's a bit of smoke around here, like the sky is gray and stuff like that. So it's always kind of like, no, it's a bit of a rainy day too today and yesterday. So it's it's dark. I cannot get too much sun, so it doesn't bother me really. Like I go work outside, I always have to slather on like sunscreen and cover myself and stuff like that. So when there's a bit of a cover like that, it's all right for me. It's all right with me. We haven't been it hasn't been too bad here. Other than that, it's just like feel like a very cloudy day. I always worry rules light system will cause player to argue with DM more often. That's kind of like a double-edged sword. If you do like a rules light game where there's a lot of gap, because a lot of time like people say, oh, it's rule light. Sometimes it's like it's half a design game. It's like, oh, it's not rule lights. There's just like no rules for that, and then it's like, oh, it's rulings over rules. So like that, yeah. Then you just like let the honest of making up the rules on the GM, and usually as they go, there's always like this stuff like that. Like, oh, how do I and oh, I want to jump over this chasm. All right, it's gonna be difficult, whatever. You can make that shit up, but if you have a system where it specifically spells out, well, the difficulty level is X per number of feet or whatever, it's just like you're not gonna have like so many arguments because it's right there in the book, but it also means that the GM is kind of like constrained by that in a way. You cannot just say like which is good or bad depending on the situation. But yeah, I find like games oftentimes that describe themselves as rules light. They a lot of them have a big gap in rules that are left to be filled by the GM, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But you also have the player has to understand that the word of the GM is law. I heard the smoke is bad up there. Canada is a huge country, so something happening in the west doesn't necessarily make it up here, depending on the wind, and sometimes it can take days before we get affected. The old Dragon Warriors games books would have comic displaying how rules work. They gave a good example. I never looked at the Dragon Warrior game. Those are kind of the game like that never made it here really. But yeah, comic display could be a good way to do it. Yeah, that could be a great way to do it. It's a good idea. I'm surprised not more people did that. Especially if you had like a superhero game, that would be perfect. You could never get into werewolf, really? Why not? It's I always felt it was well, maybe because I was like this more like the savage violent type, you know, like so werewolf would speak more to me than the kind of emo like, oh no, I'm a monster but I don't want to. No, it's like, no, I'm a monster but I'm the good guy. I'm here to save the world. And the whole spiel against like technology and stuff like that, yeah, that can't speak to me. I like Mork Borg. I have heard complain that Mork is not a complete system. I have had no issue running it, so I would say I prefer a game with thin rules and few examples. I never got into Mork Borgs. For me, always look much more style over substance, to be honest. Like I look at those books and at some point it's a matter of taste and aesthetic, but I look at those books and it's like, I don't want to get into that. It's like the book form of those person doing anything to look for attention, to get attention. Real life can mean chaos heavy. Yeah, that's a and that's very group dependent though. If you have a group of like people that are mature enough and that know how things go and stuff like that, then it's fine. You know, people are just like just go with it. I just hated the echo messaging and just found the monster type less compelling. I also hated I also hated played. I also hated played as Sabat. I guess playing as Sabat most of the time because it lets you play into being the monster. Yeah, I always been more into even in monster and stuff like that. I always been more into werewolf than vampire. Maybe because I'm more into I like animals. I always been a dog guy, and I like animals better than dudes sucking on other dudes. So always been more a fan of a vampire, of a werewolf than vampire. And the echo messaging, you know, like I'm kind of like a Kaczynskiite, so I'm alright with that. I don't like the mainstream ecological messaging because that's all bullshit. I think there's real ecological problem that people don't talk about because they always talk about like this climate change and carbon in the air, like bullshit. And like I'm much more worried about plastic and stuff like that. Microplastic in the environment is a real problem. But so yeah, and I don't like. I think we consume too much. That also come with because I'm quite Spartan, and I like. I think too much luxury and too much comforts make men weak and women bitchy. So the psychological message in Werewolf does kind of resonate with me. Not gonna I like Werewolf the least. I prefer Vampire, Wraith, and Mage the most. When Mage, it was around, but I never got to play it. But I was also never a Magic guy. I don't like playing Magic user in any game, and I think it's unmanly. I'm just throwing dark today. I don't know why. And Wraith wasn't around where I was from. Like it didn't like it reached us like later, and then at that point I kind of moved on from the World of Darkness stuff. I like King Waspinator Orc plus Bone setting, but the orcs or the noble savage type, I would have to make them a little meaner if I ran that setting. That's but the Orc plus Bone, yeah, it's very setting. That it's from what I understand, it's made to play with any kind of OSR game. I think it aim it for BX, something like that. And that's the thing too in the fantasy trope. I always like the orcs because I like the savage type, because I like the barbarian type, because I like the strong man, violent society, and so that appeals to me. So maybe it's like the old Viking blood, I'm alright with the orcs. Yeah, I don't see them as a noble savage necessarily. I see them as savage, but I like a bit of savagery. I got nothing against being savage. I think people are too civilized nowadays. Werewolf is my favorite World of Darkness game. I like to explore the animal side of my players. Yeah, and I thought the clans were cool as well. Like the tribes, the vampire tribes, was also more interesting to me than the vampire clan. I guess it was more about blood and stuff like that, less about like politics and feeling. Yeah. All good. Yeah, I'm saying those things. Like sometimes I'm being like a bit abrasive. I'm joking around. I don't really have anything like I talk about. It's playing a mage is unmanly. Like it's a joke. Like you could say that playing a barbarian is like it's for a dumbass, and I'd say yeah, okay. I don't mind. Also played as a Sabbat. Yeah, I got what you meant. I never did that. I never did the play as Sabbat. Maybe I would have liked it better, but yeah, vampire wasn't my thing. So yeah, that's what basically what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to like I said, I came here. I wanted to talk about kind of do like a review kind of way, not really a review, but discussing about like those rules missing and out of Pax Luporum, but just going through it again, just preparing for the video, just preparing to go live. I realized, well, you know what? The rule wasn't missing. I missed them because of the way it's presented. So I guess that's what I would say. If you want to if you want to write a book, maybe that's why I take forever to write a book. And some people can just put them out like so fast because they're just like they don't care. They're just like write. It's like you got your books like a flow of consciousness, and then just at some point like, oh yeah, and there's this rule, and then you explain the rules, and then you were talking about something else, and then you go back to the something else. It's like, and I try not to do that, so it takes me forever to write anything. But I would say if you're writing a book, don't skim up on the layout. That's important. Do put some example, like don't put example for everything when something is very simple and obvious, but do put some for when you have a more complex rule, or where when you have when you want to have when sometimes maybe put one example after you explain the few rules. Put an example that encompass those few rules. Because you should be able to read a book once, just read it from start to finish, basically, especially when it's a small book like that, and have a pretty good idea of how the game is played. If I have to go back to it and take note and stuff like that, maybe you should have went back to it and take note and rewritten it. That's something like if you would make a second edition rewritten with a better layout and stuff like that, that could be actually a good game. Not I reread it. I said I still got some things that are not clear that I would have some question about. But no, it's a playable system. There's actually a few things that are interesting. Few language also that I have like a problem with, like the difficulty level is there's one level, it goes from easy, average, hard, very, and impossible. Like very, and it's not like very hard. He just used the term very, and then he would say later in the book, oh, the difficulty of this test is very, and say like, couldn't you not find like another word than very? You just like should have put a little bit more effort there. The Philosopher King is the ideal man in society, but for most, finding that balance is hard. But that is a purpose for the purpose that the journey should be hard. Yeah, I like the kind of the ancient Greek that you want your you don't want to be ruled by weak men, so you want to have like your ruler be warrior, but you don't want to be ruled by stupid brute, so you want your warrior to be philosopher as well. So like the warrior philosopher kind of thing. I like that. I think that's a good ideal to be. I try to reach that as well. I try to be, to be a hard man, to be strong, and to be like I would say capable of violence. Even though I want to be peaceful, they say like if you're incapable of violence, you're not peaceful. You're harmless. There's a difference. You can only be peaceful if you're able to be violent. The layout will show your audience how the book should be read. Yeah, that's it also like it's I don't know if any of you guys got experience with programming. I assume some of you do because you're a bunch of nerds. But in programming, you make those functions and stuff like that, and you try to have like one concept per function, or you do like some kind of ideological break in your code. And it's kind of the same thing with writing a book, because writing like a ruled book like that, it's very technical stuff, and it's basically what you do. It's like every rules is kind of like a function that you put out, and you don't want to have like many rules in the same text block. You want to separate them, and that's where the layouts comes in, especially when you try to look up the rules. If there's like title, if it's well presented. Lamentation of the Seven Princess, not many rules, and it cut all the crap as well. And you go like in a, but it's very, that there's like title and the block text are separated. It's very easy to find. There's a bunch of I don't know if your camera can pick that up. Healing, poison, and like it's all like divided. So if you just like scan to the book, you can quickly find what you're looking for. I need to be careful showing page from that book. Some picture might be a bit risky. Juden Peterstein explained it the best. I'm not familiar with is speaking about I don't know what you're referring to, about Philosopher King or about layout. I guess I don't think you talk about layout. I guess you would come back to Philosopher King. I'm not a big fan of his, but that's a different topic. Anyway, that's I think I'm gonna wrap this up. That's all I wanted to say. Say if you write a book and stuff like that, try to don't like layout is important. Example are important. Don't overdo it. Don't go style over substance like some game do. But you do want to you're trying like writing rules for RPGs. It's even if it's a rule light game, it's still like a complex set of it's a complex set of rules. They're a complex game with a lot of system, a lot of stuff like that. People should be able to find those rules easily. So you want to have like the book put in a way that favorize that. And don't take your audience for idiot either. You don't have to write example for every little thing, but have some time. And don't put your first draft out. Damn it. Write it once, then rewrite second time. I can drop you a link. He has this program, but it has some clues. Yeah, I've listened to some Jordan Peterson to enough to make an idea for myself about what it is about, and the stream is over now. Now I'm talking about something else. That's what I want to talk about. Writing books for intelligent people. Fair enough. You can write books for intelligent people. Don't take your audience for moron, because people that play RPGs don't tend to be moron. They tend to be like fairly smart guy. Especially when you start like going to expanding beyond like the obvious. You're gonna find a crowd that is capable of understanding stuff. But don't make it work either. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Take care. For the Jordan Peterson stuff, I did watch him enough to make myself to get an idea of him, but I would place him in those people that they are put out there for people for like would be dissident. I'd call them like ideological playpen. When people are not happy with the way things are and they start looking for answer, then the system put out people that kind of give something that feel like an answer, look like an answer, but it's not quite the answer. It's a distraction. So you look into that and you say, okay, that makes sense. Oh, and you got this person, and oftentimes those person are demonized and stuff like that. It's part of give them the appeal, and they're put out there, and they say stuff that the mainstream people don't say, but they don't go all the way. But a lot of people can listen to that and then think that they found something, and like it got kind of get satisfaction because now they get those question answer that goes against what the mainstream say apparently. And so yeah, that's why I call them like ideological playpen. It's for dissident. Like you give them a little box where they can be dissident, but they won't go too far out. Yeah, Rob Necronomicon say all sophistry. A lot of it is, but so it's sometimes like the world is more complex and more simple than it seems, both at the same time. You know, sometimes something or just like, well, you just go with your gut instinct and just look. It's like the bell curve thing. When you see like the IQ bell curve thing, and you see people on one end saying one thing and people at the other end saying the same thing, and it's just like the people in the middle that just say, no, actually, just said like the Reddit tier people. I fucking kind of fucking stand those guys. But and nice seeing you, Rob, by the way. I was about to wrap up, and just like now somebody like got me started on a subject like that is not RPG related. But yeah, sometimes like, okay, there's this saying that say tradition is the distillation of wisdom. People that are not too bright and go, oh, if this was good enough for my grandfather and for my great-great-grandfather, it's good enough for me. They're correct. Because the thing that we have done for a long time are the thing that works, or the thing that, like, because all those bad ideas that we had in history, all of the bad idea people have now are not new. They're bad idea that people had before. They try, it didn't work, they moved on. But bad idea has a tendency to come back and be rebranded somewhat, and now those people got those bad idea again. If you go with tradition and you say, like, there's is the survivor bias in a way, like the thing that we've done for a long time or the thing that works. So and then you got like those midwits that think that they're smarter than the people before them, which they are not. Our ancestors weren't idiots, but now they think they're smarter, and that, oh, now we finally figure it out, and now we can do better than what has been done before, and we can move beyond the era of the past. But that's a mistake. It's just like people that are like, oftentimes people that are slightly smarter than the average, and they realize that because they had an easy time at school, and now they kind of fell in love with their own intelligence, and they think they're so bright that they can change the world. They don't realize that of how smart the people in the past were. So they think they can do better, and then you have the really smart people that do realize that thinking you're smarter than people from the past is a mistake, and that if thing became tradition, that there is a reason for it. So yeah, it's this bell curve of IQ, with the both ends saying the same thing, sometimes for different reason, and just like the middle thinking they're smarter than they are. Correct. I feel he has value for some, but only if they will continue the journey for answer. But for those that take him as gospel, he is a mental prison. Yeah, it can serve as a gateway, but I think his purpose is to be gatekeeper. But it's a gatekeeper that won't keep everybody in. Some people will pass. Like, there's a gate there. They put a gatekeeper. He's trying to distract you from going through the gate. But some people will say, oh, you know what? I'll go sit in the gate. It's all right, man. I know it's I guess it's kind of early. I think you're in Ireland, right? It's kind of early for you, eh? Yeah, we learn from our mistake, and we should. And we what the heck, man? Just like, not leave your Pop-Tart in there for too long. We stand on the shoulder of giant, literally. Exactly. We have to recognize that. And it's like thousands of years we did things one way. There's a reason for it, tens of thousands of years. There's a reason for it. We need to stop thinking we can change the whole world in a generation. Anyway, those are topics I'm always interested to talk about, but a topic I have to be careful of because 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 of YouTube. You know it is. Oh yeah, it's evening. Yeah, I did the the conversion backward. Like I did like a -6 instead of +6. Yeah, you're right. It's evening. Yeah. Where's your gun now? Well, maybe it's sending you a message. Don't let the don't let your start in the toaster oven too long, or wash it once in a while. Sometimes grease in the bottom there. Come on, man. All right, guys. I'll try to stream again on Friday around the same time, noon Eastern time. So we can, if you're in Eastern time in the US, you can go warm up your lunch. Don't forget it in the toaster oven, and then come eat it while we chat a bit. Thank you for people that joined in, and have a good rest of the day wherever you are. Take care.